This paper was presented at the JCT Traffic Signal Symposium 2024, thanks to our media partner Highways News, and sponsored by AGD Systems, Four-Way Consulting, Traffic Group Signals, Smart Micro UK, TRL Software, PTV Group, Census Networks, and Starling Technologies.
Cool. Yeah, hi. What's someone doing with a background in aviation at a traffic and signals conference? I'm as surprised as you are, trust me. In general then, I am actually talking on the behalf of one of my colleagues, Clive Lewis, who is the technology manager at Midlands Aerospace Alliance, and also Sunil, who's the innovation manager for transport at Coventry City Council. So I will try my best to answer any questions at the end, but of course, please do bear with me if I have to liaise you onto their contacts to answer it fully. What I should be able to give you is a little bit more of an insight as to what you should be looking going forward, especially within this sort of realm and this industry, linked to kind of drones. And kind of the key with that is the scale of these operations. So I'm sure we've all seen Joe Blogs down the road using a small drone and putting it up and trying to get as many images as possible. What we're talking about here is how is that going to scale, and actually what is the growth of that industry going to look like, and how is that going to affect the industries like yourselves. So I work for a company called Skfarer. We specialize in scaling drone operations within fairly complex environments. A kind of key one within that is then urban. So obviously when we're looking at those kind of more risk areas through highways over to just more urbanly populated areas, and scaling those operations and getting to a point where you've got a load of data coming in non-stop is quite a risky aspect. And what we're going to make sure is that local authorities and organisations are prepared to be able to implement that safely, legally, and obviously with as least impact to the residents and the commercial owners there. So we've been working with Midlands Aerospace Alliance and Coventry City Council on this paper called Drone Ready Cities. And the idea is to provide a framework and guidance for anyone who is looking to scale these sort of operations into their cities. And likewise, if you are an organisation who would like to start using this sort of operational or benefits within your company, what you need to be keeping an eye out on. Perfect. So what are the kind of key challenges that we've got coming through? And why drone-ready cities? Well, in general, you've got the likes of regulators like Civil Aviation Authority who are doing a splendid job on the aerospace side, and specifically how we split that airspace or how we integrate uncrewed vehicles into that airspace. But what's missing from that is more of the kind of the ground base. And then there's quite a few challenges that are faced currently. You've got regulators who are severely under-resourced. And that's going to be the case for a while now. We've got essentially a small team who are trying to oversee an incredible influx of new aircraft being used within our airspace in the UK. And of course, as we all know, the UK is quite a small island, right? You've got a load of different uses for the airspace, including military, parachutes, gliders, and the whole lot, all squished into a very small condensed area. And so it's very hard and difficult to make sure that we can increase the safety within that sort of realm, whilst benefiting the organisations that are ultimately using that data. Likewise then, we've got trials and validation require what I say is kind of trendsetter organisations. What I mean by that is those who have innovation officers within them. So Coventry City Council being a great advocate for Skfarer and pushing the services. And a kind of key aspect with this is you need an organisation that is super open to just having a look at all of the different challenges they're facing currently, rather than what seems to happen now is picking drones as a solution and trying to just fit it where they think is best. What happens is drones don't become the right solution, and they actually in some aspects become a bit of a hindrance. So it's making sure that you are using it as the right solution, especially if you're then going to scale that to multiple flights over multiple days within an urban environment. Likewise, definitely for local authorities, you've then got the social impact side of things. So it's making sure that we're minimising what that looks like. And then kind of been mentioned already, but the unknown benefits that are there. So making sure that we do actually shine a light on everything that drones can be used for, looking at not only the primary data that they're taking in, but also what is the secondary and tertiary data that can be collated over each flight to be able to optimize those processes within the local authorities or the combined organizations. And ultimately, I wanted to just put in, we need to make sure we're decreasing that risk. There is a lot of kind of benefits with using the likes of drone technology. Safety is one aspect, but let's make sure we don't introduce any more risk to kind of anyone external of that operation or external of those scenarios or events. Brill. So where does Drone Ready Cities come in? So DSIT is Department for Science, Innovation and Technology. And as part of their Pioneer Fund Round 3, they've injected £12 million towards the likes of local authorities. And it's all kind of focused on ensuring that we can create a UK regulatory environment that encourages this kind of innovation side and pushes growth for the industries around. And something that Coventry City Council and Skfarer and the Midlands Aerospace Alliance has been focused on is that connected city side and how we can get to that solution. Likewise, it's making sure that the UK do keep at the forefront of this regulation. It's something that we've seen start to creep back quite a bit in a lot of different industries. So let's make sure we can kind of push that forward a little bit more. So Drone Ready Cities project is looking primarily at the ground-based solutions. So the likes of the other regulators like the CAA will take a lot of the airspace side, but we're still needing that infrastructure. We're still needing to ensure that society and the social benefits are made very aware to those residing within those cities. And likewise, making sure that the environmental impacts are still considered and maximised. I won't spend too long on this side. I'm sure we're all kind of aware in general, but aiming towards those kind of carbon neutral targets. When we look towards the medical logistics side, which is actually where Skfarer started out, and we're still going charging down that route, is then being able to reduce the congestion on some of those roads as well. But that's going to be a little bit further ahead of us. And what we're wanting to look at is how do we benefit society right now. And in general, something that's probably not, or potentially the opposite is thought around, is actually being able to create new business opportunities and job opportunities. We are in no way taking anything, even though it is autonomy. It's going to be a booming industry, and it is going to start opening up a lot of new career paths for people within their cities. Again, won't spend too much time, but potential use case of drones, there's a significant amount. I'll try and relate it as much as I can to traffic management today and some of the aspects we've been doing with Coventry City Council. But I think the key one on this slide is, as an organisation, as we've found with Coventry, please be open around what your challenges and pain points are. The kind of key aspect we go down when we do a workshop with these sort of organisations is we'll put 6 kind of generic use cases up that everyone knows that drones are used for. And what we want is by the end of the session is to have 16 use cases up there. Now the idea is we've got innovation coming from all over the industry, tech, software base, and also the sensors and payloads themselves. And that is quite literally changing on a daily basis. So there is going to be a lot of change and a lot of new enablements within this industry. And with that, you need to make sure that you haven't got a closed mind to what you know drones currently use, because that's going to be very different in the next 2 years. So supporting kind of that connected city. So I've already mentioned a little bit around that. But essentially, it's making sure that all of that data is collected. Where is it being used? What is it being used for? And the privacy around that and the security around that data. Likewise, a little bit more relevant, we've been doing a lot of reactive traffic management as well as proactive traffic management with Coventry City Council. This tends to be at kind of large events or any kind of pinpointed areas that are pretty hot spots that they want to know what is the scenario and what the events are actually, how they're impacting some of those diversion routes. And likewise. And something that Drone Live Feed kind of partnered with some of the AI software can do is just provide a lot better situational overview and awareness of the entire impact. So when you have traffic managers who are actively managing an event, if they can not only get their individual cameras on different roads, but actually get a full picture of what their actions are, how it's impacting the live traffic, we found there's significant reduction in the workload, not only inside that control room, but also things like the wait time and likewise of people experiencing that diversion. Likewise then, we've also done a few sessions and demonstrators on what's called DFR, so drones as a first responder. It's a fairly controversial topic going forward, so I'm not going to go too far into it in terms of who's going to be operating this. But again, it's just proving as part of this drone-ready cities framework is what drones can provide. So that's immediate situational awareness at the scene of an incident or any sort of event. And what we've been finding is even with the traffic management side is the likes of the police, highways who are beside the council's team are actually then wanting to hook into the live stream that we're providing and that data because of how useful and how much of a big essay it provides them with. So from the regulation point of view, and this is very much from the actual airspace side, it's a little bit of kind of to give you knowledge of where we are now and where we're going over the next 3 years. Right now, BVLOS, some of you may be aware of it, it's beyond visual line of sight operations. And what that means is you've got someone within an operations room somewhere in the UK who are then observing and / controlling these aircraft and drones, and that could be kilometers away. Now, there's a lot of price and cost benefits with these sort of operations, but likewise, you start to get on-demand operations. You get data, more data and more often, and likewise, if you're trying to hit those innovation targets, it is obviously seen as a big push within the industry. So that's been demonstrated, and it is ongoing within what we call danger areas, and that's essentially when you cordon off a specific amount of airspace purely to be able to achieve what you need to and obtain the data in the way that you want to. What we're now seeing is over the next year is something called BVLOS atypical. And atypical purely means how likely is it to be crude aviation present within that area. I won't go too far into that, but in general, it's going to start enabling a lot more operations, and especially the key word there is scaled operations within the year and 12 months coming. Now, a lot of these on the board are already being trialled and have already been proven. So it's not a matter of whether this can happen. It has happened. The key, as I said before, is the scale of that, and how do we ensure that the use of multiple aircraft and drones for operations like traffic management, but likewise for other uses within a city, can be implemented safely and effectively. And then kind of the 3 years ahead, you're then going to see those routine, beyond visual line of sight operations, both from logistics and deliveries, but also then from a multitude of different inspections, surveillance, security. And that's going to be operating on a basis where everyone is fairly used to seeing one in the sky. And hopefully it's not going to be as dense as some movies show it to be. So drone-ready cities then is looking at some of these other elements, including the local airspace use. So who are the operators within that area? The ground infrastructure. So what are you providing to enable operators to start operating within those cities? And providing to those organisations around. Supporting services, likewise, as we've spoken about, security is a pretty big one, and privacy is a huge one at the moment, and will be going forward. So it's all about giving and providing those guidelines for how you can implement drone technology, considering these sort of points. Protecting the environment is obviously always going to be a big one, and that is a key one, especially for drones, especially the likes of new fuel technology coming through. So we are moving away from just the battery use and going into more other alternative fuel uses such as hydrogen. And then in general, maintaining that social equity. So making sure it is accepted. Part of this kind of integration is looking at the airspace, and Coventry City Council, Skfarer, and other councils, Reading Council, have been involved in a project called Skyway, which is looking at a drone highway from Coventry all the way down to Reading, and a few other kind of cities and branches along the way. And essentially what it's doing is enabling us to share the airspace with other users. Again, so the end user, like yourselves, when you're wanting to collect that data, you don't have to worry about any of the legal aspect or the deconfliction from other aircraft. It is a long process to get these sort of projects approved and to a point where they can become commercial. Skyway is coming to a close up in this February, and hopefully you'll see an output which becomes commercial out of that. But again, it's just giving a bit of an insight that the number of things that are being funded by the government and other private companies to ensure that we can push this to a solution and to a point where it's just readily available for anyone to use. Perfect. So what does success look like? Well, in general, having a regulatory framework which can be used by other local authorities is what this paper is looking to go towards. And ensuring that they can then define the necessary trials which are required within those cities and surrounding areas and organisations to enable this to push forward significantly and to where it needs to be. So that's kind of it for myself. In general, if you are a local authority or you're an organisation who are simply just wanting a little bit more information on where this industry is going, how it potentially could help you as we start to scale and those costs start to come down significantly, or likewise, if you have a little bit more of an idea of data that you'd like to start collating from above, then absolutely reach out to myself at Skfarer. And likewise, if you're more interested in the guidelines and actually being able to work with this framework, then please do reach out to Sunil or Clive. Hopefully you do have the contact details available there. And I'll be very happy to have that conversation. Brill, thanks very much.
I think we could squeeze in a quick question, if there is one.
Go for it.
Thank you, Peter. I'm sorry, this isn't a regulatory question, it's a demonstration of my ignorance. I presume there's a range of conditions under which drones simply cannot fly, and I'm thinking about service availability. If it's data acquisition, you need visibility. If it's transporting something from A to B, you probably have different requirements, but could you give us a thumbnail on that, just to put me out of my ignorance, please?
Really, really great question, and it is something from a reliability point of view, and drones is going to need to excel a lot more in. From a technology kind of point of view in terms of where we are, something key, especially within the UK, with the temperate climate we have, is IP ratings. So that's enabling us to go out into wet conditions. It's a pretty key one. So IP ratings are now up to IP55 as a core kind of industry standard. Now that's not the best, it's not where it should be to be able to enable us our classic British winters, but it is certainly moving very quickly towards that. What the CAA are very cautious and other regulatory bodies are cautious about is ensuring that that certification is as it should be. Now, aerospace is, especially when you're looking at kind of the more commercial airliners, when you're going down the certification route, you're talking decades, like years and years and years of certification. What's happening now is you're getting some very quick successions with technology, and so to put that through the process, it's taking a lot. It's taking a lot to be able to check and validate that the certification is where it needs to be. I'd say over the next 2 years and 24 months, we are going to see a much quicker progression into those conditions that we can operate within. I think that the last point of that is the only other element is wind. And that is something that does tend to get capped by essentially what becomes a military aircraft. And so again, it comes down to the regulation to how can we push that forward safely and responsibly. So both are pushing forward. It is known that for this industry to scale, it can't be seasonal. It's got to be year round. So it is a great question. 24 months, we're going to see a massive change from what we currently have. But it's not to say right now we're deploying the likes of drone in the boxes. We have a drone sat permanently in a spot, and no operator is needed to go to it. And the reliability is significant. We're not seeing a lot of dropouts.
Thanks. Excellent.
Thanks very much.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.